There comes a moment when every struggle, every delay, and every unanswered question reaches a divine turning point. That moment is now. When God says it's over, it is not a whisper of hope, but a decree of completion. The old chapter is closed, the old burden dissolved, the old fear dismissed from your life. You are no longer meant to carry what God has already released. When you begin to act on a prayer as if it has already manifested, something powerful happens inside you, long before anything changes outside you. Most people pray with hope but move with hesitation. They ask for new doors, but continue walking as if the old ones are still locked. The shift begins the moment you decide that your actions will match the future you are asking for rather than the circumstances you are standing in. This is where the real work of faith begins, because faith is not an emotion, it is a posture. It is how you carry yourself before the evidence appears, how you speak before the outcome is visible, how you walk before the path is clear. When you align your behavior with answered prayer, you tell life that you are ready to receive what is already prepared for you. On the unseen plane, the universe is responsive and intelligent, constantly mirroring the vibration you hold, not the words you repeat. If your energy speaks delay, you attract delay. If your energy speaks readiness, you attract release. Acting as if your prayer has been answered pulls the invisible into the visible, because your belief has finally created the internal conditions needed for manifestation to take shape. Many people wait for confirmation before they move, not realizing that the confirmation arrives only after the movement. There is an invisible law at work that responds to certainty the way a seed responds to the soil. The moment you embody the result you desire, you activate the spiritual mechanism that brings it toward you. If you pray for abundance, but continue making choices rooted in lack, you send mixed signals into the field that shapes your reality. If you pray for healing but continue identifying with pain, you reinforce the very condition you want freedom from. Acting as if means you are shifting your identity before the physical proof appears, because identity is the blueprint from which everything else is constructed. What you consistently embody becomes your experience. What you prepare for becomes your reality. What you expect becomes your unfolding story. This is why answered prayer requires you to behave as if the answer is complete, because that behavior becomes the magnetic field that draws the result into being. Acting as if is not pretending. It is aligning. It is recognizing that the spiritual world operates on completion long before the material world catches up. The moment you pray, the answer exists. It may not yet be visible, but it is already alive in potential. Your job is to bring your daily life into harmony with that potential by speaking, thinking, and moving in ways that support its arrival. Each step you take in that direction confirms your faith and strengthens your signal. The universe reads your readiness in the way you choose, the way you show up, the way you invest your time and energy. When your actions reflect certainty, the invisible law opens pathways that hesitation would have kept closed. When you walk like someone who has received, you begin to receive in ways that were not possible before. Faith is the currency of manifestation, and action is the language faith speaks. Releasing burdens that no longer belong to you is equally essential. Many people continue carrying emotional weight, outdated beliefs, or old disappointments long after God has declared the season finished. The spiritual law of completion requires release, because nothing new can enter a space still occupied by what was supposed to be temporary. Holding on to an old struggle after it has spiritually ended is like carrying luggage for a journey you no longer need to travel. You exhaust yourself with weight that serves no purpose. When you release what has already been resolved in the divine, you make room for the manifestation of what is next. This release is not passive. It is an intentional choice to stop feeding energy into stories that have expired. It is a decision to stop revisiting wounds that have already been healed on the spiritual plane, but remain open only because your attention keeps them alive. There is a divine timeline that moves differently from human understanding. Sometimes the struggle ends spiritually long before you see the evidence of that ending. You may still see situations that look unfixed or unresolved, but in truth they are only echoing the remnants of a previous state. When God says something is over, the spiritual contract that kept it in your life has been dissolved. But if you continue to emotionally, mentally, or energetically carry it, you keep recreating the same pattern even though the season has changed. Release means trusting that the closure you cannot yet see is still real. It means refusing to rehearse the past in your mind. It means refusing to fear outcomes that are no longer meant for you. It means letting the old chapter stay closed, instead of reopening it through memory, doubt, or worry. Releasing burdens is also about letting go of the identity you built during the struggle. Sometimes the hardest thing to release is not the situation itself, but the version of you who survived it. When you have lived through fear, hardship, or uncertainty, you can become attached to the mindset those experiences created. Even after the struggle is over, you may still think like someone who is waiting for something to go wrong. You may still expect disappointment, prepare for loss, or guard yourself against outcomes that no longer apply to your new spiritual season. This is why releasing burdens is also releasing the emotional habits created during older chapters. Freedom requires you to think differently, speak differently, move differently. You cannot step into answered prayer while carrying the mindset of unanswered fear. When you release, you create spiritual room for fulfillment. You stop blocking your own good. You stop delaying the blessings that have been trying to reach you. You stop interfering with what God has already designed to unfold. Release is not forgetting, it is surrendering. It is handing over what you are not meant to carry. It is allowing divine order to complete what your effort could not. When you let go, the law begins to move freely. The right opportunities flow. The right people appear. The right timing unfolds effortlessly. Life aligns because you are no longer tied to what was. Both acting as if and releasing burdens are two sides of the same spiritual process. Acting as if prepares you to receive. Releasing burdens makes space for what is coming. When you combine these two principles, you step into a state of alignment where manifestation becomes natural. You stop fighting the old and start embodying the new. You stop dragging yesterday into today. You stop approaching your future from the perspective of your past. Instead, you rise as someone who recognizes that answered prayer requires cooperation. It requires a shift in identity, intention, and energy. It requires the courage to live from the outcome instead of the obstacle. Acting as if creates forward motion. Releasing creates freedom. Together they create transformation. They teach you that your spiritual work is not to convince the universe to bless you, but to become the person who can hold the blessing already prepared. Once you understand this, everything begins to move in harmony with your intention. Doors open because your posture changed. Opportunities arise because your identity shifted. Peace enters because you let go of what disturbed you. Abundance flows because you no longer think like someone surviving scarcity. Healing arrives because you no longer identify with pain. Love appears because you stopped carrying the scars of old wounds into new spaces. Live as if it is done. Let go of what is finished. This is how the unseen becomes seen. This is how prayers take form. This is how you step into the life that was always meant for you. Gratitude ahead of time is one of the most powerful spiritual principles because it places you in the vibration of completion rather than longing. When you give thanks before you see any evidence, you signal to the universe that you trust the invisible process already unfolding on your behalf. Most people wait for something to arrive before they acknowledge it, but spiritual law works in reverse. The acknowledgement invites the arrival. Gratitude becomes a bridge that connects what exists in the unseen with what can be experienced in the physical world. When you give thanks in advance, you erase the distance between desire and manifestation because you are no longer focusing on what is missing. Instead, you are aligning with what is becoming. This shift in focus reshapes your emotional field, recalibrates your expectations, and opens your life to receive what your faith has already claimed. Gratitude also dissolves resistance. Every fear, doubt, or anxious thought creates friction in your ability to manifest. These energies slow down your progress because they contradict the outcome you are seeking. When you intentionally express gratitude before the blessing arrives, you override these limiting emotions. You replace uncertainty with certainty, tension with peace, worry with assurance. Gratitude is a spiritual declaration that says, I believe it is done, and because I believe, I welcome it fully. This state of belief strengthens your connection to divine order, allowing life to unfold more effortlessly. It shifts you from asking if something will happen to knowing that it already has in the spiritual realm. This knowing is what opens the doors you have been knocking on, because the moment your faith becomes steady, the universe aligns itself with your expectation. Another powerful aspect of early gratitude is the transformation it brings internally. Manifestation is not only about what you attract, but also about what you become. When you practice gratitude before receiving, you train your mind to operate from abundance instead of lack. You learn to see possibility where others see obstacles. You begin to carry yourself as someone who is supported, provided for, and guided. This internal shift is what makes external change possible. The person who is grateful ahead of time steps into a new identity, one capable of holding the blessing they have prayed for. Gratitude expands your capacity to receive by elevating your perspective. You stop viewing life as something happening to you and begin seeing it as something happening for you. This alignment is what allows blessings to appear with greater clarity and speed. Just as gratitude in advance prepares your heart, letting your spoken word align with certainty prepares the path ahead of you. Words carry creative power. Every statement you make sends a command into the field of possibilities, shaping the direction of your life. When your words are rooted in doubt, hesitation, or fear, you unintentionally reinforce the very conditions you wish to escape. When your words are rooted in certainty, confidence, and faith, you call forth the experiences that match that energy. Spiritual law responds to clarity. It does not question your intentions, it fulfills the vibration behind your words. This is why it is essential to speak as one who knows rather than one who merely hopes. Hope reaches, but certainty claims. Hope waits, but certainty walks forward. Hope wishes, but certainty declares. When you speak with certainty, you declare the outcome before the evidence appears, and your declaration becomes the mold through which your manifestation takes shape. Your spoken word must be consistent. It must not say one thing today and another tomorrow. Contradiction weakens manifestation because it fractures your energy. When your heart asks for one thing but your words affirm its opposite, you create confusion in the field around you. The universe mirrors what you say, not what you silently desire. This is why spiritual mastery begins with conscious speech. Every word must be chosen intentionally, spoken with authority, and aligned with the reality you are stepping into. This does not mean forcing positivity or ignoring challenges. It means recognizing that your words have the power to redirect your situation. Instead of saying everything is going wrong, you choose to say everything is rearranging for my highest good. Instead of saying I do not know how this will work out, you say I trust that it is already working out for me. These statements are not empty affirmations. They are spiritual commands that activate hidden pathways and opportunities. When your words align with certainty, your energy becomes unwavering. This stability attracts solutions, ideas, relationships, and breakthroughs that uncertainty will never draw in. Certainty creates magnetism. It tells life that you are prepared to receive and willing to participate in your own unfolding. Certainty sharpens your intuition, making it easier to recognize guidance and follow it without hesitation. You begin to notice signs that were always present but previously overlooked. You see openings that match your intention because your internal compass is pointed directly toward the result. The spoken word is not merely sound, it is a declaration of direction. Every time you speak with clarity, you move yourself closer to the reality you desire. Gratitude ahead of time and certainty in speech work together as a powerful spiritual combination. Gratitude fills your heart with the feeling of completion, while certainty guides your words to affirm that completion into form. One shifts your emotional state, the other directs your creative power. When combined, they generate a field of alignment strong enough to transform circumstances that once appeared immovable. You no longer speak from your past, you speak from your future. You no longer feel from your wounds, you feel from your victory. You no longer expect delay, you expect fulfillment. This alignment changes everything because the universe always responds to coherence. When your emotions and words match the vibration of what you seek, manifestation becomes natural. Gratitude before receiving teaches you to trust divine timing. Speaking with certainty teaches you to trust your own creative authority. Together, they create a life lived from spiritual principle rather than emotional reaction. You stop waiting for circumstances to shape your belief and begin using belief to shape your circumstances. You stop measuring your progress by what you see and begin measuring it by who you are becoming. This is the essence of answered prayer. You step into the vibration of the result long before it appears, and because of that, it cannot help but appear. Detaching from old timelines and old versions of yourself is one of the most liberating steps on the path of answered prayer. Every time you grow, a part of your past tries to pull you back into familiar patterns, familiar fears, and familiar limitations. The mind becomes attached to what it has known, even if what it has known has been painful or restrictive. But manifestation requires a shift in identity, and identity change cannot occur while you are still emotionally rooted in who you used to be. Your past self was shaped by circumstances that no longer define your current spiritual season. The thoughts that carried you through survival are not the thoughts that will carry you into expansion. The beliefs that formed when you were struggling are not the beliefs that will support the life you are praying for now. When you detach from old timelines, you choose to stop living in alignment with memories and outcomes that are already done. You allow yourself to step into a new narrative where your future is no longer determined by the emotional habits of your past. Detaching does not mean forgetting everything you have been through. It means refusing to let those experiences dictate what comes next. Many people attempt to manifest while still carrying the energetic imprint of old disappointments, betrayals, or disappointments. They pray for something new but remain loyal to old versions of themselves that were created during seasons of fear. This creates a conflict between what they desire and what they unconsciously believe is possible. Detachment releases this conflict. It allows you to stop repeating old emotional cycles and begin creating new ones. It invites you to say, "That version of me helped me survive, but it cannot help me evolve." Every answered prayer demands a new identity, a new mindset, and a new emotional foundation. Without detachment, the old self continues to sabotage the emergence of the new self by pulling you back into patterns you have spiritually outgrown. When you detach from old timelines, you also free yourself from outdated expectations. Sometimes the past teaches you to expect loss, expect struggle, or expect difficulty. Over time, these expectations become unconscious habits, shaping your response to life before anything has even happened. When you detach, you break this automatic pattern. You begin to see situations with new eyes rather than through the lens of old wounds. This fresh perspective makes room for new opportunities because you are no longer filtering the present through the shadows of the past. Detachment teaches you that you are not obligated to carry the emotional weight of former seasons into new ones. You can allow yourself to expand, to upgrade, and to embody a version of yourself that reflects the reality you are calling in. Walking in divine authority is the natural continuation of this process. Once you detach from who you used to be, you must step into who you are meant to become. Divine authority is the recognition that you are not powerless, not lost, not waiting for permission to move forward. It is understanding that you have been given spiritual power to command your environment, speak your intention, and align with outcomes that are meant for you. Many people pray for change, but continue living as if they have no influence over their own lives. They diminish their own agency by assuming they must wait for external circumstances to shift before they can rise into their next level. Divine authority reminds you that your spiritual identity carries weight. You are designed to participate in your blessings, not merely observe them. Walking in divine authority also means trusting that what is promised to you cannot fail. There is a difference between forcing your way and stepping into what has already been prepared for you. Force creates tension. Authority creates flow. When you operate from authority, you understand that doors open because they are meant to open. Opportunities appear because they are aligned with your divine path. You are not hoping for things to work out. You are acting from the certainty that they already are. This certainty shifts your posture, your voice, your decisions, and even the way you show up in relationships. You speak with more clarity, choose with more confidence, and move with more intention. Authority also strengthens resilience. When challenges appear, you no longer interpret them as signs that you are off your path. Instead, you recognize them as moments of redirection or refinement. You stay centered because you know that nothing can take away what has been divinely appointed. This inner stability allows you to navigate uncertainty without losing your peace. It gives you the courage to pursue what is yours even if the path seems unclear. It prevents you from shrinking back into old versions of yourself when pressure arises. Divine authority becomes an anchor that keeps you steady as you move toward the fulfillment of your prayer. Another significant aspect of walking in authority is that it aligns your actions with your identity. When you see yourself as chosen, guided, and empowered, your decisions reflect that truth. You stop settling for situations that contradict your worth. You stop agreeing to relationships that drain your spirit. You stop participating in cycles that limit your growth. Authority teaches you to protect your energy, honor your boundaries, and choose paths that elevate you rather than diminish you. These choices accelerate manifestation because they keep your vibration aligned with the life you are stepping into. Detaching from the past creates the space. Stepping into authority fills that space with purpose. Together, they form a powerful foundation for transformation. One frees you from the emotional weight that slows you down. The other strengthens your ability to move forward with confidence. One closes the old chapter. The other empowers you to write the next one. This combination helps you shift from waiting for life to change to becoming the change itself.